Well, hey everyone, it's time for Geocache Talk. Whether you're at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy the show. Please give a like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Pocket Cast, Google Play. You can get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Travel Bugs for the music and our patrons, Doug Demon Hunter 2, Aggie Jedi Master, Electric Water Boy, Joshua the Geocaching Vlogger, Cashly, One Kind Word, Ravenclaw Tia, Shermanator 18, Butterfly Girl, Loon Trackers, the Aussie Geocacher, the GeoGearheads, Sodak Zach, the Deadliest Cachers, Terrell 2, Neil Moore, Molly the Geocaching Dog, Team D&D, Geocaching Adam, Peachy 1276, the No Code Geocachers, Curiosity Girl, Tick Magnet, Marsipanic, Bricker John, Fire Safe, Doc Firewoman, FS Sabero, Geo Rick, Cache Addict Mel, Geocaching Janji, Geocaching Junkie, Sir Drumalot, Janice, Tricassius, Tom Frey, Rugels, The Bruce Zero, EGK PBR, Casamaya, and our new patron, USMC Master Sergeant Barry. Woo. Welcome. We got a Marine. We've got people from all over the world, and now we have a Marine Corps Master Sergeant, so we're pretty fired up about that. If you'd like to become a patron, head over to patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get path tags, coins, other geocaching swag during the year, as well as invites to special events only for patrons. Support levels start at as little as $3 a month. Well, we got a big show tonight, so let me start by welcoming my co-host, Sydney.
Good evening.
And Jesse.
Good evening.
So let's jump right into show number 77 for November 26th as we welcome Dr. Polley to the show. Welcome to Geocache Talk.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
We are so glad you're here, and we've got a lot of questions for you, my friend.
Bring 'em on.
But first, we've got some news. First, I want to give another update on the Podcast of Hope. We have pretty much got our lineup set up for December 10th. It's 8 hours, 4 p.m. to midnight. We've got Daryl W4 is going to be on, talk about holiday gadgets. We're going to talk the other games. We're going to have a vlogger roundtable. Very excited about that, too. And we've got Sunny and Sandy on. We got Podcaster. It's going to join us as well. Talk about a look back and a look forward. Just love talking to Sunny and Sandy. They're good friends of ours, and we love Podcasters. So it's just jam-packed. One hour after another for 8 straight. And you can even go right now out if you aren't able to go that night out to our show or be with us on that night. And you can go out to events.stjude.org/podcast of hope, and you can donate there as ahead of time, or you can do it that night. Either way, but the site is set up and it is ready to go. We're raising money again for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and really looking forward to that evening. A couple notes. I noticed that one of our sponsors is IB Geocaching, and they got a sale going on right now. It's going from Black Friday through Cyber Monday. So get out to IB Geocaching. The link will be on in the show notes, but IB Geocaching's got a cool sale going on. Go check out their materials and wares that they're selling this weekend. And we are very thankful to IB Geocaching for all of their sponsorship and a lot of the giveaways. One of the giveaways we're going to announce tonight from last week is items that we get from IB Geocaching as part of our sponsorship. So thank you again, IB Geocaching. Go check out their sale. Another interesting note, as you know, we have behind me, we have a trackable that we show on the show. We don't talk about it, but it's there in case you're ever watching and not just listening. So this weekend, actually it was a couple of days ago, I guess, I started getting all these discovers of our trackable. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And they were all coming from Denmark. So shout out to Denmark. Hello. We're glad you guys are on board. They noticed our trackable so they had a bunch of discovers from Copenhagen, Denmark, or around Copenhagen. So again, thank you for seeing our trackable and discovering it. So very excited about that. And the last news item is from Jesse.
Yeah, I finally got to go out and do some geocaching today. And I thought I'd report back on two of the virtual caches that am I still doing that? Am I still calling them history caches? No, and two of the new virtuals that were in town. Cached for several hours today. About an hour south of where I normally live, or I normally cache.
Normally live.
Yeah, well, if I can move, it'd be great.
Right.
Send money and I'll move. Yeah. So we got to do two of the new virtuals today. We had two of them in town put out. One of them was great. It was Harry Potter themed, and there was like 12 stages, and you had to do fun stuff at each one, and then figure things out. And it took you on a good tour of Denver, the whole area, and cool. It was impressive. We got to, spend all day doing that and getting caches along the way, and it was great. And then there was the other one.
How long? Well, we'll get to that one. How long is that one? How long has that first one been out, Jesse? Do you think?
It came out probably
a couple months after, I think.
Yeah, a couple months afterwards, and it's got some good favorite points on it. And it's a 4.5 4, and it took us several hours to do. So it was it was pretty good. I mean, it was great. I enjoyed every bit of it. It's exactly what everybody that was campaigning for virtuals to come back out.
Right.
Should be, right? So it was great. Me and a buddy went down there. We cached all day. Got like 45 caches as we went from stage to stage, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a very good one. It deserves every bit of the favorite points that it gets on it.
Cool. And then there was another one.
There was the other one, and I'm not gonna put the GC number in the notes. I'm not gonna give it out or anything because I'm gonna bash it for a minute. So I'm not gonna even give out the title of it.
Right.
So that's what I put in the categories. This is why we can't have nice things, right? So, the place that it took you was very interesting, but what you were looking for was on a green, one of those like control valve things in the ground. You know what I'm talking about? Where they get to the sprinkler head.
Oh, right.
Like the green plastic things that you.
Yeah.
That's what they were sending you to.
No, come on.
To get the. Really? I mean, that's what's going to get it booted back out, right? Here's what's interesting. And I don't want to give too much information on this one, but you're in a really cool area. There's got to be really cool questions you can ask, and the question is get a number off a sprinkler head. Wow.
Well, Buzz, there. Okay. A sprinkler head.
I mean, that's how we're going to get virtuals to keep going. That's the McDonald's seat. Hey, this is a special seat.
So when you're standing there getting your info, is like great views, or I mean, why? I mean, other than I don't want you to go into detail, but
there is something you can ask tons of questions on, right?
Right.
No questions about that. The question was locate this thing, and that's where the coordinates were. A little green plaque, not even a plaque, a green valve on the ground. What's the number on that? Stop it.
No. That's not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
I don't understand why we would, still did it, still finished it, got my smiley,
Well, sure.
Happy. But I just, that's not going to encourage anybody to bring those back out, right?
Right. I wonder how many of those are like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and somebody said it took you to a special place and gave you something you couldn't look up on the internet. That's a good point. I don't know how you could possibly look that up on the internet. So maybe you have to do that to control it, right? I don't know. It just seemed kind of underwhelming when you get there and you're like, that's what I'm looking for? So
yeah,
it is what it is.
I guess. Yeah.
But so I guess you got to balance it out somehow. But I can see why they're like, we're not going to do this, so you can send us to a McDonald's seat. So, and it wasn't that. It was a cool area. I'm not even going to say what it was. It was a cool area.
They do waymarking all over again.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I don't know how that's not gone, but that's terrible. But anyway, so one of them was really awesome. The other one, it seemed like there could have been something a little more special to it. Right.
All right. Well, good updates, but let's jump into the show then. That's good, Jesse.
I just trying to be nice at the same time.
No, you're good. Hey,
It's good to try, Jesse.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah, we don't pull any punches on this show. They might on other shows.
That's right.
Not Geocache Talk. We tell it how it is. We're not a corporate, we're not a corporate company that has to, say certain things based on, shareholders or something. We tell you how it is.
However, if Under Armour is listening,
if REI is out there, North Face, we're out here. North Face, we're out here. We talk about it. Go ahead. All right.
Send all bribes to no. All right. So we have Dr. Polley on the show tonight. Good evening.
Oh, it's good to be here.
So Dr. Polley or
Professor Polley?
Professor Polley?
I'm a doctor, but I really am a science teacher at this point. So you can call me Stanimal, Dr. Polley. It's all good.
Stanimal. I like that one.
Stanimal.
Stanimal.
All right. So the reason why we had you on the show is what you do through your job, right? But we have to add, this is a geocaching show, so we have to ask the first question first. How did you get into geocaching?
Oh, okay. Well, my story is sad. I got into geocaching because I got dumped in like 2010. Like,
oh no!
Right in the beginning of the summer, and like my father didn't know what to do with me, and I was sad and lamenting, and he gave me a eTrex something Garmin and said like go find some geocaches, and then kind of got into it. My dad already knew what it was, and so kind of wandered around and found some caches, and it still was sad most of the time.
But you were wandering around sad.
I was outside. I was climbing mountains, so it works out.
That's cool. Was it in Colorado?
Actually, so I started in Oregon. I'm born and raised just south of Portland, and so mine was along the coastal range and the Oregon coast. And then was into it immediately and kept on going for, till now.
I've heard there's a little bit of geocaching out there.
That's a few. We got a few.
And a little bit north, they have some. There's some business there or something that they.
Well, but he's close to the original stash. I mean, come on.
Have you done the original stash?
Of course, absolutely. It's a rite of passage. Yeah.
I know.
For those just listening, that was Sydney grimacing.
Oh,
I know.
I live so far away from there.
You are a long way away from
all the way away.
It's a little anticlimactic. I'm not going to lie, though.
I don't care.
But still,
I thought it was pretty cool.
It's totally cool for sure. And there's lots of great caches in the area too.
Yeah, there you go.
There is. That one's cool. So I had to sneak out. So we were on vacation when I was out there. I had to sneak out at like 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun had come up and drive up that, for people that have been to that, drive up this little bitty road to get to there. And there's no lights anywhere around. So I had to like park my car weird so I could shine the headlights at it and get it. So it was pretty fun. Maybe if I just drove there in the middle of the day, it wouldn't have been as exciting, but I thought it was pretty cool. So.
Yeah, no complaints. I think I went to that cache and found like 3 or 4 other people going through the same thing. So it felt kind of like a highway getting there, but it was good. It's good.
Mm-hmm. So you were geocaching and you're also Dr. Polley, the teacher. How did you decide to combine those two things?
That's totally a fair question. I think I got my graduate degree. I have a PhD in molecular biology. And then
obviously, yeah, like
of course, naturally. And then I think halfway through grad school, I knew that I wanted to get back to my passion, which was always kids in some format. And so started working at the first school that gave me a job, which the school is called Loveland Classical Schools in Loveland, Colorado. And so started there and didn't have any plans on connecting geocaching with teaching at the time.
How long ago was that?
That was like 4.5 years ago. And then I started in Loveland. And it took me about a year to get caching really going in the classroom.
So did you immediately start off just put it in the classroom, or how did you kind of break the ice initially?
Yeah, so I wasn't really trying to break any ice or even include geocaching, but I had like one project where I wanted to send travel bugs around the world for like an astronomy project. where like from one location, like if you're in New Zealand, what will the actual constellation look like from there, and compare it with a whole bunch of other places. And so I started just doing that.
That's so cool.
That's probably better than just like, hey, I'm going to take these kids out into the woods. I mean, that might not have gone over as well.
No.
Yeah, it's geocaching.
Right.
Okay, call the police.
Uh-huh.
So did is that when you started bringing it into the classroom that satellite? What'd you say? It was a satellite thing?
Yeah, it was just a way to introduce astronomy in a way of understanding, the rotation of the Earth. And if you're on the bottom, you're going to see different constellations from a different angle. And after that, I had a bunch of kids who wanted to get into geocaching, and I was like, I bet you I can sneak this into the classroom way more often.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of us that are not teachers, did you have to like put that into the lesson plan and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do? I swear it's a real thing, or?
The school that I was at and the school that I am at now were both really cool with whatever you want to do. So I never put it in any lesson plan, but it was pretty obvious what I was doing. I was communicating with my administrators, and they were down from the very beginning.
That's cool. I could see it where it'd be quickly where they'd say, no, that's extra. We don't need you to do that. And, like the common concept or misconception is if it's not the test, if we're not learning about algebra for the test, then it's just extra stuff, right? So,
yeah, luckily the two schools that I've been at, they don't teach to a test, which is nice.
That's excellent. Dr. Polley, when you got to that stage of, I want to include geocaching, and then you kind of got the first stages done, did you do it and did you kind of go through and do it in like step, or like when you had to obviously you kind of step back and go, ooh, how do I add this in? Did you go back through your curriculum and try to go, where can I add it? Or did you kind of try to go, I'm going to start over with my lesson plans and try to go back through what's the process that you took, knowing that now you've got sort of the green light? What was the process you took to kind of go back through your lesson and kind of add it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I think the very first thing I wanted to do was like have a classroom competition set up. And so I wanted some way to have like my 3 4th grade classes compete with one another in a way that's positive. And I started by setting up traditional caches that represent each of those class teams as part of like a point system. They're competing against one another. So it started with that. And so like if they went out and found one of those traditional caches, they would earn some amount of points for their team. If they were travel bugs, all the costs of travel bugs. If they crossed state borders or had extra miles, it would increase their team points. And that way I could kind of like, I don't know, change the behavior in the classroom too. Like I'd be like, 10 points for Gryffindor for, being super focused during that test. So originally it was that. It was just trying to have a competition using Geocache for it. Yeah.
There was pizza parties tied into these in the beginning too, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, actually, so it was if you're in Denver or you're in Portland, you might have heard of Voodoo Donuts.
Oh, we've heard of Voodoo Donuts. I live in East Texas. I've heard of Voodoo Donuts. So,
so I for the last 4 years, I threw a giant epic Voodoo Donut party at the end of the year for the winning team. But secretly, all the teams get Voodoo Donuts.
You don't tell them that until the end, right?
Yeah, you don't tell them. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
You know what the best donut at Voodoo Donuts is, don't you?
I mean, that is super debatable.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
not debatable. There's a donut named Memphis Mafia.
There's not.
Yes, there is.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
even going to assume about it. It's so good. So,
there's
actually a donut named Memphis Mafia.
I'll go ask for one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's actually a
named
very
after
big donut.
Elvis. Was it really?
Yeah, it's a very big donut. Because I saw it. I swung through there because it's Voodoo Donuts, right? Yeah. I was like, God, I was freaking out. They have a Memphis Mafia donut. This is awesome. It's like, how'd they even know I was coming? And I ordered it, and it's like this huge donut. It's like a whole cake. It's huge. But
does it have bananas and peanut butter and
all
the things that Elvis loved?
No, it is named after that, but they didn't go that far with the theme. It's not like a fried peanut butter banana sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I like the Tang personally. Tang donuts.
Tang. Is there one that has like it's like an actual voodoo? It's got the little pretzel sticks in it,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right?
it's creepy.
It's
Shaped like
a
a guy, little voodoo guy.
voodoo doll. Yeah.
And you got to be a little
Um,
careful with those too, because some of those donuts are not donut party worthy due to the content of the donuts.
Oh, little adult content, right?
This-
Little,
yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah, don't look at the menu on the left. Just to stay to the right.
Yep. Mhm.
I had a question for you about this. Again, we kind of joked about it at the beginning because I somehow claimed that you were much older than you really are, Dr. Polley, before the
Mhm.
show. But do you have for as part of your class equipment? Do you have GPSRs for the kids to use, or what are we using for?
Yeah, I have actually there had donated about 7 Garmin
Okay.
pens, and then even had a small grant that got me a couple extras. So I have a whole bunch
cool.
of GPSs that I can check
excellent.
out. Mhm.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So I've been lucky enough, before we get into the actual program of it, I'm lucky enough that people may not have realized this yet, but he's talking about an area that both of us are in, Loveland, Colorado. So I've got to go out and find some of these caches, and I won't talk about them now. I'll wait till the end, but it's pretty neat. And one of the things that we didn't mention, but it fits into what you're doing with your kids, is the photographs that you had on there.
The photographs.
Yeah, they got extra points for their class.
Mhm.
If you would post a photograph when you found the cache, you got to get extra points for the class. So against the teams for the big party, I thought that was pretty neat. That it definitely encouraged people the community was getting involved in that too. So it was pretty neat.
Oh yeah, I have tons of hilarious kids holding geocache pictures for sure.
Random pictures of all kinds of stuff so they can get more points. It was great.
Yeah, mostly just pictures of the ground or a dandelion, but yeah.
Well, you don't want to give this, you don't spoil it. So
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. They do all the time though. They'll take a picture right up at a bison tube hanging in a tree. Like boom. Supposed to be off.
like pointing. This is it right here. This is go get this. Open it.
Mhm.
All right. I'll quit. I'll stop
you're
now so
fine.
Sydney can get to their questions. I keep talking over Sydney, so.
I got one. We got to get a question from the chat room. Sorry.
Oh,
Sydney.
sure.
Then we'll get to Sydney's questions. This is from Scott. He says, Dr. Polley, is your teaching changing now that smartphones are becoming more prevalent in geocaching?
Oh, big time for sure. It's really, really nice actually to have all these kids with smartphones and they can go out and find these caches and I don't have to check out as many GPSs. And the technology is really necessary because most of my caches are puzzle caches or mystery caches. We have to solve some kind of science puzzle, math, or history puzzle. And so having access to all that stuff, and being able to plug in coordinates to like a mystery location on your handheld phone is amazing.
Cool. Thank you. Very cool.
But of course, it's tricky sometimes because, it costs that extra money for premium for those kids to add those coordinates, but a bunch of them do.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sydney.
We still can't hear her.
Oh, we can't hear Sydney.
Can't hear you.
Oh, that's sad.
Oh,
no. Still can't hear you.
We lost
can-
we lost
She's
your-
talking away. She's asking great questions too, and nobody can hear her.
Somehow our audio got killed. If you want to disconnect and reconnect, Sydney, you could do that. Well, we'll just keep going. She's like,
What she was
Put her
trying to
head
ask you is, can you walk us through your geocaching program, kind of how the current state of it, how it works now?
Totally. So it's not the easiest thing to explain. I'm not going to lie. So generally, it was a classroom way to have competition between different classes, like 3rd, 4th grade classes. And that's how it started. And it was just about getting points for your team. And I had built a bunch of traditionals. I think I have like about 40 traditionals that were connected to earning points for those teams.
Mhm.
And then at some point along the line, like 3.5 years ago, it really turned into producing geocaches and puzzles that are specific to the content that I've been teaching. And that is definitely when things took off a little bit for using it in the classroom. And I mean, I ran into the problem really quickly of if I make this puzzle that's about chemistry and they have to solve it. Like, am I really going to have all these kids on their computers or tablets in class, like going through and trying to solve it? And what I eventually ended up doing was taking all of these, like I have like 120, I think I've had these mystery puzzles, and then printed them out, and so that they'd be hanging in the classroom, so that they'd have like copies available to them at any time. And by solving those, they earn points for their teams. Of course, like if you look behind me, you'll see like there's some weird racks up in the corner there, and all of those are. This is my classroom. All of those.
Yeah.
Are,
Dr. Polley's in his classroom for those audio listeners. We're actually, which is very cool. Go ahead, keep going.
Oh yeah, well, you know, teachers are always stuck in the classroom. But like those caches are always available, and if it's not homework, it's not an assignment, and so they can grab them anytime they want, try to solve them, and turn in a physical copy, and then I will grade it and give it back to them. And if they got it correct and they are right, they get added to like a scoreboard that I show every single day.
Very cool.
And so they can see that, and then like the printouts are like, here's an example of like a printout. It's all about birds and ornithology, and you have to solve a puzzle and identify the birds, and then turn it into me, and then you end up on that scoreboard, and your team's points rise, and you get some kids who just become ravenous about doing those puzzles.
Oh, that's very cool.
And for anybody that thinks, oh, he's doing 3rd and 4th grade level puzzles, yeah, no, they're not that easy.
Well, now, Jesse, you know, there was a show about, you know, are you smarter than a 5th grader? So
Yeah, the answer is no, because a lot of his puzzles, he's got a lot of them out there too. A lot of them are stuff that I promise you, as an adult, unless you're a teacher, have not thought about in 10 years, 20 years or more. It's, you know, you're like,
So
crap, what did my teacher say about that?
Why did I pay attention more in school?
Why did I sleep through that lesson? You have to like, it takes a long time to just go, oh, what was, and then you finally get back into it. So,
Oh yeah, Google can help you too.
yeah. Love the Googles.
Sydney, can we hear you yet?
Can you hear me?
Hey.
Woo!
Sydney
We
is
got her
back.
back. We can hear
I
you.
don't know what happened. I didn't change a thing. So we talked about puzzles and trackables, but have you guys done anything else, like maybe Earth caches or Where I Goes or CETO events?
Totally. So I've never actually published an Earth cache. I'm kind of scared of them. I've seen
It's hard.
It's hard.
We're all
Sorry.
scared of them.
I'm a little scared of them. I haven't published one of those. Where I Goes, I'm a little scared of too. I'm not going to lie. But I am a little scared. CETO events, we've done a few though, for sure.
Oh, cool.
And that's kind of a goal for this year, to do at least 3, maybe 4 CETO events in the Boulder area.
So you publish these caches and then the kids go find them, right? Or work on them in some way?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a mix. Like as a teacher, my number one goal is I want them to solve a puzzle and like actually do the academic content. That's my number one goal. So like if they like solve one of my like chemistry like puzzles and turn it into me, like that is my number one goal. But then after that, like about half the kids probably will ask for a GPS or go out and find those caches. But it's a mix. Some kids will solve every single one of my puzzles, like 40 plus puzzles, and never find a single one. And some will solve, 40 plus puzzles and they'll find every single one. So it's a mix.
So
It's
how
really
many?
cool I was just say really cool because you're getting the kids to think a little bit outside the box than even what you probably have seen before, Dr. Polley, with the people who are trying to get the kids to learn some content. Now you've got like another whole avenue that you've used to get kids to sort of think about that. That's really cool.
Totally. And I think for me, it's, you often end up as a teacher in a class with kids at all different levels. Like some kids are like blowing your mind. Like that's crazy how bright you are. And then you have kids who are in the lower end who are going to struggle. And the hard thing to do is to like meet everybody where they're at. And I think one benefit of like a puzzle system is that I've got puzzles in chemistry that could, be challenging for a grad student. And I have puzzles in chemistry that is perfect for a 3rd or 4th grader. So they can kind of, find where they are and then hopefully move up that scale a bit.
It's chemistry. They're all hard.
Chemistry is wonderful.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Yeah, so good. So good.
So have any of your kids ever hidden a geocache of their own?
Totally. I've got a few geocachers that are ravenous about making gadget caches, especially now where I'm at in Boulder, making gadget caches, making log kind of like cutout caches. I'm not sure how many total I have like hidden from kids, but it's 40, 50 different types of caches. Of course, that's dangerous, right? Because everybody knows if a young kid, a fifth grader, wants to go hide a geocache, it's, you gotta coach them before you have them hide anything, because that's going to end up somewhere that's either not appropriate or on private property or is just horrible and not waterproof. And so I do some teaching before anybody wants to go hide them. I say, come please talk to me. Let's talk about guidelines.
Right.
And that's going to be just like anything else, right? Just the general public. Some of them are going to be great, and some of them are going to be not great. So,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but I can attest to one of his students. I knew him in the area, and he went out and hit his own caches after the class. And they were young kid, right? Young student, and best in the area. These two caches were awesome. Yeah, because I remember, when they first showed up, you're like, "Who is this person?" Because their caches are great, and then you meet them, and you're like, "Where's your dad?" No, my dad didn't do this. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome."
That's awesome.
So some of them really took it and ran with it, and were doing just impressive things, like by bicycle riding around town. They can't even drive yet. They're too young to even drive.
That same kid, I know this kid, and of course, he always tells me, he's like, "Are there any more you could hide that's within a mile of my house?" Because that's the range you had to bike to. I know.
He just wanted to find more caches. That's just, that's awesome.
It's great.
So, in general, what is the consensus about geocaching? Do the kids think it's cool, or do they think it's like for lame old people, or what do you think?
So it's a mixed bag, but I think most kids come in not knowing what it is, except for you'll have like 2 or 3 kids who are already insanely hooked. And so you've already got those kids and they're ready to go. But the general consensus is they love it. I mean, it's pretty easy. And I mean, I usually start off by hiding geocaches, or they're not published, obviously, but around campus where I'm at, to kind of get them like excited about the idea of finding a hidden gadget cache or something that's hidden around. And so they pretty quickly kind of get into it.
And how many would you say, after they leave your class, how many of them continue geocaching? Any idea?
That's a totally fair question. I think if I had like a class of 30 kids, let's say, I don't teach that big anymore, but if I had a class of 30 kids, probably 10 of them end up being consistent like geocachers after they've left my class, but probably like 25 of that 30 probably found caches while they were in my class for sure. So it's a mix, it's not going to stick for everybody, but a lot. It sticks for a lot.
That's awesome. We had another question from the chat. So you create puzzles for the kids, but do the kids ever create puzzles for each other or for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can't really see it in the back here, but I'm in my classroom and I have a section of like a little geocaching corner that is actually coordinates that are available to turn into a puzzle cache. So if I have a kid who's like blowing everybody away in science, for instance, like I'll give them a set of coordinates and they'll make a puzzle because the actual container's already been hidden. And then they'll make a puzzle, give it to me for either extra credit, and then I'll publish that if it's a quality puzzle. So yeah, they make them as well.
Very cool. The chat room's blowing up. We got some more questions from the chat room.
Sweet.
So 4th grade do you teach other grades now, or is it still 4th grade?
So actually I teach 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, things have changed. You used to teach 4th.
Yeah, you didn't have enough to do teaching 4th. You wanted to add the rest of the grades too?
I used to teach 2nd, 4th, and 7th grade, and now I moved to a different school, and now I'm teaching 5th through 8th.
Is it? Do you do different geocaching? Well, wait a minute. That's interesting. So you basically have to incorporate your curriculum, because the curriculum's different, obviously, for a 4th grader than an 8th grader.
Oh yeah.
So that gives you like a whole world of options for teaching with geocaching, because you can kind of it's like adding different puzzle types. You know what I mean? You've got all sorts of things you can do that are different.
Yeah, it's super nice. It's super nice to be able to like get into new curriculum. Like, okay, I'm teaching physics, and it helps me kind of center myself. I'm like, I'm going to make like 6 puzzles about Newtonian physics, and then it gets my head straight and kind of helps me lesson plan.
Oh yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. Another question that was in the chat room. Scott had a question about doing presentations with the Boy Scouts or other youth groups. So there's because I know we have some other folks that listen to the show that are involved, some with Boy Scouts and some with other groups. Is there any crossover to some other groups within the school?
Yeah, that's
involved with, or
I've never done it through Boy Scouts or any kind of scouting group, but I certainly have given little seminars for teachers on how to incorporate in their classes. And and if you end up being a teacher who works in my same grade, I will eventually start talking to you way too much and convince you to make like geocaches in your content as well.
Hey, if you're geocaching, there's this thing called geocaching.
Make some puzzles for me, please.
Make some social studies puzzles or math puzzles.
I've got so many math puzzles, oh my lord.
Gotta get the other subjects involved.
What's that?
I said you gotta get all the other subjects: history, science, math, gym, maybe.
Ooh, I think almost all of those. I'm not sure what I do in gym.
Come up with something, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Like, how do you play Foursquare? There could be a puzzle there.
There you go.
Do you do earth science as well, or do you chemistry, physics, that kind of?
I guess I do it all. I definitely have a bunch of earth science caches as well. A lot of continental drift, a lot of what type of rock is this kind of
geology.
Puzzles. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Love geology.
So I expect to see some earth caches come out soon then. So
I know. It's shameful.
I just called you out on the show, so
it's true. I will get there, and I'm in a great place for it, being right on the edge of the Flatirons in Boulder.
Oh yeah, I love that area. That's very cool. It reminds us a little bit. We have one of our patrons and somebody who's been on the show a couple times is Doc Firewoman. She did something interesting too, Dr. Polley, where she teaches in a college, but she helps with some elementary school teachers who are doing some work with students. But something also they did, and I don't know if you've incorporated something like this within your classroom. Or at least what she did was there were some people or some kids in her class that were their gifts, I guess you could say, were more in the area of either preparing a container because they kind of had sort of a different science makeup, or they were into the writing of the geocache description because they were kind of writers to be. Is there the ones that you've done that are out there that the kids have been able to help you with? Are you finding that some of the kids you can find outlets for them to be involved that maybe on the surface maybe they're not seeing a way to be involved, but you kind of see ways for them to be involved?
Totally. So I ran a club for like 3 years, and I'm starting one here at my new school. Where it's all geocaching based. And of course, you can have kids who come in and want to make puzzles. In fact, it's the only requirement of the club is that you have to make academic puzzles that connect to some of their content in whatever subject they want to. Right. And so, you have some kids who really just want to build gadget caches, and they want to do that kinesthetic, that physical kind of thing. And then you have some kids who want to write a beautiful, 5-page paper about famous historical person. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, it's not me.
But it's an outlet for them.
Totally. And those are for the super nerd geocachers that I end up producing.
Right.
What? There's no nerds in geocaching. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, not at all.
Those two things would never cross paths.
I've never seen a football or a baseball or a non-nerdy puzzle made by one of my students, and I fully support that.
Right. Absolutely.
No, that's not true. There was a football related one you had.
Oh yeah.
About the Broncos early on.
Oh yeah, there was. That was I don't remember what that was.
I mean, it wasn't overly jockish, but it was about football.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's true. And that was created by one of my old 7th graders. That's true. That's true. Take it back. There's one.
There you go. See? Now he's home crying right now. That's so mean.
Aw.
Oh, it's hard to cheer for the Broncos this year, but we'll cry it out. Mm-hmm.
Oh, ouch.
Hey.
We don't want to get into that.
They have a Super Bowl win not that long ago, so we're not going to get too teary-eyed about the.
Yeah, no tears for us.
Speaking of hometown football, so Sydney has some more questions from the chat room.
I do?
Yes, you do.
Didn't we ask those already? Am I missing something?
Do we ask about extra points for favorites?
No, that came in later.
No.
Have you ever incorporated favorite points into like extra points for the classroom or anything for the cache that they had?
So I haven't done that, but one of my classic things to do at the start of the year is like a scientific method experiment, like where all the kids create an experiment. And I use geocaching a lot with that, where I'll have like, okay, I placed 5 geocaches. One's a tiny light skirt cache, which everybody hates, and the others are incrementally more interesting. And then over the course of like the first month of the year, they have to graph like the change or the number of finds or favorites that go with that. So that's as close as I get to playing around with favorites.
I think one of your typical containers is right behind you in the corner, isn't it? Is that
Oh yeah,
ammo cans there?
Oh yeah, plenty of ammo cans. I get donations all the time.
That's excellent.
That's awesome.
So when you kind of step back from your program and also from the club, I mean, you've got kind of both, or you're working on the club, and you've done that before when you were at the other school. But when you step back and you kind of think about what values do you think the kids have picked up over time? What are some things you've seen as far as results, I guess?
Totally. I think the biggest thing is you can have a teacher who stands in front of you and talks at you like all class, and you take notes. And you can learn that way and you can be successful. But I think my major goal is to have kids on their own independently want to work and produce a good work. And I think the puzzles, like they end up not noticing that they've completed 35 of them as the year's gone on. And it's their own motivation that's doing it. And it's not homework. And that's like my number one goal, is for them to be independent learners and want to do it on their own time.
Right. Because you really are. You're doing a great job of getting them to learn now, and sort of maybe the light bulb has come on, and now that you've really kind of teaching them to learn through their whole life. Right?
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Have you the interaction with parents? Do you feel like that you've had good positive feedback from parents, and what's the experience you've had with them?
Yeah, so I learned my lesson like the first year I started doing this is to have like really clear, like printed instructions about how to register for accounts and log in and etiquette and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I know so I hide my puzzles. My virtual locations are almost always in water, just so a kid doesn't think, for instance, like, oh, I'm going to go find it in the water. They'll realize the second location. And my first year, I had a kid, his parents called me and they're like, hey, we're like 4 feet deep into Bodek. They're like, we're not seeing it. Like, should we go further? And I'm like, oh God, please
no. Oh no.
So there's plenty to trip up on, but I think at the beginning of the year I send out information about geocaching and how to do it and how to check out GPSs, stuff like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had teachers or staff kind of peer in a sense and go, what is Dr. Polley doing? What is going on in this classroom? You know, do you have them stop you and go, all right, I got to ask, what are you doing in here? Good.
So yeah, that's happened a bunch. And it usually is in reverse because I'm bugging teachers to get involved and like do a puzzle that's connected to their content. So it's usually that way, but I'll have teachers who are confused why their kids are running around outside looking for hidden containers.
Why are you
when
going
it's supposed
outside?
to be
That's awesome.
TikTok on that one. It's Colorado. It's gonna get cold soon.
Right. It's awesome.
Mhm.
So for the various teachers and parents that are out there that can be involved in different ways, what are some of the things you would advise? Let's start with teachers, I guess. What are some things that now that you've done it at a couple schools now and different things, what are your top things that you would want to tell a teacher about how to get a program set up?
So I even had to write something down for this because, I mean, I wouldn't suggest this without like really thinking it through before you started.
Sure.
But I think number one is if you're already an established geocacher and you understand the guidelines, rock on. It's like a good start. If you don't know the guidelines or where it's appropriate to, publish a cache, like private property or open spaces, like all that stuff needs to be researched beforehand. You got to be really careful about where you put a cache. Like the biggest nightmare is you put a cache somewhere, like some teacher puts one at a post office underneath like newspaper stand, and then the police come, right? Like that's my number one.
Cam mode PVC looking very unusual.
It does happen.
It does happen.
It totally does. So that would be my first thing is like know the guidelines, and then and being aware where you hide them, like teaching the etiquette for sure of what to do in a cache. I had a couple kids who literally like took everything, all the swag out of caches and brought it back to me, be like, sweet, look what I found. And
score.
Teach them that kind of stuff for sure. And then explaining, like providing materials for like parents beforehand is huge. And if anybody ever wants those, I can share that as well, because that's been really crucial because parents are confused automatically.
Right. Do you encourage, do you want people to contact you? I don't want to send anything out or say anything unless you.
Yeah, feel free.
Where do you want people, what's the best way for people to contact you about that are interested in setting up either a program or a club? Because you're really talking about two different things tonight. We were talking about a geocaching club toward the, and then also an actual program, but for teachers. So where would you prefer people get in touch with you?
I mean, you can totally email me, and my email is Stanley, which is like you think it would be, and then Polley, Polley @gmail.
Okay, very cool. Very cool.
So in the chat room, they asked, have you ever had them team up together, like one that just wants to write this neat page and one that wants to build something? Have you ever had them team up together, the kids, to hide one?
Oh, totally. And a lot of times that's kind of like necessary because like one kid's going to make that gadget cache and he's refusing to write anything. It's just not his thing. And so there's always somebody else who can fill in that blank. It allows people to use their strengths for sure.
Have you ever had parents actually want to get involved?
I definitely have a bunch of parents who got into it after their kids came home asking to go out and go geocaching. And I've had some really cool parents who have come in for special events where I set up like little geocaching activities on campus or in parks. And they've been cool, like volunteering for CITO events and stuff too. Their parents are pretty great.
That's awesome.
So with other teachers that get involved, I have to ask this, and people that know me know that I kind of like competition, right? Just a little bit. So
just a little bit. Really?
Do you think you'll be able to get to a place where, you could have a team at your school, your club, and then another school's club? You think you'd ever be able to get to where there's some kind of competition going there, like school, with the Dragons versus the,
that would be so cool.
Bad things are.
Geo Olympics or something, yeah. That'd be cool.
So I love that idea. And like before I get to that point, I think I want to be able to share out all those geocaches and puzzles with local school districts and try to get them, like get the science teachers, being like, I'll just use that as content too. And I've been working hard at that this summer. And if we got that, we've got a few teachers in nearby districts who are down for it. It'd be a blast to have some competition.
That would be pretty cool. That's so much more fun than I remember science being.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They're learning, and you don't know they're learning. It's sort of like getting kids to eat their vegetables with.
That's sneaky.
Sneaky.
Haha, you learned something.
At the end of the year, I almost always get these caches turned in as a physical form with all actually solve a puzzle and give them back to me. And I'll staple them all together, like, 42 like puzzles they solved, and I'll give it back to the kids and be like, "Ha, homework!"
Right.
And you didn't know you actually did it, so it's a good way to trick them.
Right. That's awesome.
But that's, you get them having fun, and they get more and more into it, and it's you just kind of set them loose at that point. That's pretty cool.
Totally, that's the goal.
Sneaky.
Well, we're getting close to the end, so let me go around the room a little bit. So, Sydney, what are some of your last thoughts or questions that you have?
Well, I think science is clearly the best topic to involve geocaching. Clearly,
Right.
Geology, technology,
Math
math
too.
is cool.
Math is easy.
I think history is kind of cool to add in as well, but
I totally
science
agree.
history. There's ways to do science history, I guess, too, right?
What subject could you not add in?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, nothing really.
English. Wait.
I
That
have
would be
several English ones. I have English ones, like
Yeah.
grammar checks, like
Oh, good God.
like find the mistakes within a paragraph kind of thing.
I hate that.
Yes.
Hmm.
My wife she would love stuff like that. We probably need to get her setting up a grammar check one. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, and history. I love history. History, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
But it's great to, teach the youngins about our cool thing. I've talked to a couple groups of kids about geocaching, Girl Scouts or, at the library or whatever, and it could go either way. Either they think it's super cool or they think they're like, what are we doing? Like, we have to go outside. So I think, keep up what you're doing. Seems your kids are really excited about it.
Thank you. I'll keep on going for sure.
Jesse, what are some of your?
So I love this program, and I'm kind of involved in education as well, so I like it from that side too, in the geocaching side. And I think it's great. School, there's every year they have to learn more and more. They're expected to know more and more things because there's just more information out there, right? And anytime you or other teachers, they take the time and the effort to actually make it fun. Because we've all been to those classes that are terrible, right? But if you can get kids wanting to learn things and make it fun, it benefits them. And there's geocaching, any lessons, right? You can put it into geocaching. And like you mentioned earlier, and we didn't even get time to really talk about it, but you've done the cleanup events. So you got service projects, you're doing other things in the area. And for selfish reasons, I like it because it adds a bunch of caches to the area. It adds a bunch of puzzles to my area, so it's great. But I would have loved to have this back when I was in school. This kind of competition where it's kind of it's not just sports, it's other stuff too. And I hope that it spreads and other teachers are contacting you after the show and they build up more clubs around, and then kids can do this. That kids need positive outlets. They need something they can do, and everybody can belong to this kind of outlet. So I think it's great. Keep doing it. We expect both Earth Cache and a Where I Go from Dr. Polley class coming up soon. So
Earth Cache.
Mainly the Where I Go. That's the most important thing. But we expect good things out of it, and I think it's been a good influence on the kids. I've got to see it a little closer than the co-host or whatever because it's in my area. But I really hope it catches on. I hope it's a normal thing, and 10 years from now, every school has it everywhere. So
that would be cool. It would.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Dr. Polley, we really appreciate you being on tonight. We really, we're all huge fans of what you're doing. Just so you know, and I'm sure you've had a lot of people give you feedback and positive feedback, but from Jesse's suggestion to have you on, and then, City and I reading about this, there's a good blog with a B out there on geocaching.com. You have to mention blog or vlog, and they sound similar, but blog with a B on geocaching.com. Just do a search on the blog for Dr. Polley, and you'll see it out there, and read some of the things that we didn't cover tonight as well, if you're interested in more information. And, again, just, we're very thankful that you're doing this. We really applaud our teachers that are working hard. All our teachers that are working hard to teach our kids, and not, like you said, you're not teaching to a test. You're wanting to teach kids so that they will become students for life. And this is just a neat way to be. And I'm, hats off to you. Whatever we can do to help, we're really big supporters, and we really thank you for being on tonight.
No, absolutely. It's been a pleasure to be here, guys.
Give you a chance to say some final thoughts, and then we're going to get into the prize pack winner from last week and such. So what are your closing thoughts on this?
I mean, my closing thoughts are, if you're a teacher or an educator or a parent and you want an extra way to, I don't know, reach your kids on like tricking them into going out and having fun geocaching, but also getting them to do work, like you can both bug me. You can look me up through geocaching. Look at some of the puzzle styles. It's not that hard to do yourself, and it's really effective.
So, can we give? What's the best way, Jesse? Should we give out his a GC code to go look at, or what do you think is the best way we could kind of give an example of what?
We could put some in the notes, I guess. Can we put those in the notes, or? Have any of your? I guess I'll pull it up real quick and put it in the notes, so we can read it for the end of the show too, I guess.
Yeah, pull up one at least, and then we can give that way people can kind of work off of that one maybe. And I'll let you do that while I got some other other things we'll do, and we'll get to that in a moment. So last week we had a suggestion to have everyone, because we usually give stuff away on the show live. But somebody said it was Brylang who wanted us to do a one for all the listeners, all audio listeners, and the live chat people too. So we did that, and random.org selected Lisa Starr as our prize pack winner from last week. So Lisa, send me your mailing address, and I will send out our prize pack to you hopefully sometime this week. And so let me mention on our next few shows coming up on the show. So next Sunday, show 78, is actually going to be a viewer-suggested show, which is kind of cool. So if you're a listener and you have a suggestion, send us a suggestion at geocachetalk@gmail.com. But next week, we're going to talk about what got all three of us hooked on geocaching. This was a suggestion by Larry. He goes by XYZ Explorer, and he suggested this a while back, and I said, that's a really good suggestion. So we are going to do that, show 78. Show 79, which is kind of going to be odd because it'll be show 79.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. 79 is going to be our 8-hour podcast of hope. It'll be one YouTube video, as long as everything works right, and I think we'll be okay. It'll be one YouTube video, but it's going to be 8 separate audio hours, because we always split them up so people can listen to them at their leisure if they're not watching the show. But if you want to watch all 8 hours, we encourage you to watch live. We'll be interacting with the chat room throughout. So that is on December 10th. December 17th will be show 80, and we're going to talk about the good old topic of favorite points. The good, the bad, and the ugly of favorite points. So that should be a very interesting discussion with the three of us on that. So Jesse, do you have a GC code we want to use to give an example of Dr. Polley's?
I do. And I want to mention that if we don't make somebody mad on the favorite point show, they're not paying attention.
Right.
We have different opinions, and we're going to make somebody mad.
Exactly.
So if not, we're going to try really hard.
Right.
Yeah, so I also want to bring up the fact that I just pulled up the profile for your class. 159 geocaches.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Awesome.
You've been doing. I know
That's
you've done this for a few years now, but that's impressive. That's a lot of caches out in the area that you've done. They're all academic. They're all educational.
Mm-hmm.
So a good one in there is cacher sclerosis. And that's just a good one because it shows an example of your typical format of when you're doing something. You got a bunch of different types, but that's a good one to show. And the GC number on that is GC 6CC 9J.
Oh, wow, cool.
GC6CC9J. But that's a good one because, like you said, it's not that hard to put together. Well, that's debatable, right? But that's a good, it's got numbers to letters, questions. It's directly related to the topic. So that's a pretty neat one. But if they go on there, of course, they can click on your class's profile from there and see a bunch of the other ones that you've done and put out over time.
And that one was created by a student.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, yeah, from there, people can kind of branch out from there and look at other ones that you have, or even your students, like you said, have created, and good ideas, and so that's the first one. You can kind of grow from there as you go look at the different GCs. So, well, very
I would
good.
assume other teachers could jump right on there and copy that for their area, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Of course, they have to solve it first. They can't cheat. Teachers can't
Right.
cheat. But
Solve first.
they can put those same things out in their area.
Yeah. So that's an awesome idea. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Please email us your comments or suggestions for shows or whatever you'd like to geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Geocache Talk, or at Geocache Talk is the show's Twitter. Mine is at Gary Slinkard, one word. Jesse is at Memphis_Mafia. Sydney is at Shermanator GC. And Facebook is at facebook.com/Geocache Talk. Show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, as well as the Geocache Talk website. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button below so that you can see and hear the show on a weekly basis. Until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. Go solve some of Dr. Polley's puzzle caches, and then go geocaching, right?
You got it.
There you go. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.